If you've ever watched a crime documentary, read a true crime book, or heard someone on TV throw around the word psychopath, there's a good chance they're basing it, knowingly or not, on one thing: the PCL-R. And that stands for the Psychopathy Checklist Revised. And it was developed by Canadian psychologist Robert Hare in the 1970s and 80s. Hare built the tool to evaluate psychopathy in prison populations, adapting it from the work of psychiatrist Hervey Cleckley, who had described psychopaths not as monsters, but as emotionally hollow, superficially normal people. Hare's version added one big new emphasis: criminal behavior. And with that shift, the PCL-R became the most widely used tool in forensic psychology. It was meant to predict violent recidivism, and in that context, it works. But if you're trying to actually understand what psychopathy is or how it feels to live with it, that's where the problems begin. Now, the PCL-R is often called the gold standard for diagnosing psychopathy. But when you dig deeper, it's more like a forensic hammer. It's just blunt. There's nothing subtle about it. First, it overemphasizes criminality. Half the checklist is based on behaviors like juvenile delinquency, parole violations, and poor behavioral controls. That means someone could score high on psychopathy without having the core traits that actually define it, like emotional detachment, lack of empathy, or a shallow inner life. So if you're a criminal, but not a psychopath, you might score high. And if you're a psychopath, but not a criminal, you might score low. Then there's the issue of subjectivity. Traits like glib and superficial charm or grandiose sense of self-worth sound clear on paper, but in practice, scoring these depends on the clinician's bias, culture, and training. Add to that an arbitrary cutoff score of 30, and you're working with a tool that turns a spectrum of human personality into a yes or no box and often gets it wrong. Another major problem: the PCL-R hasn't aged well. Newer models like the triarchic model of psychopathy focus on boldness, meanness, and disinhibition, concepts backed by neuroscience and personality research. The PCL-R doesn't account for those. It doesn't measure traits like emotional resilience or low anxiety, which are actually central to primary psychopathy, the kind I was diagnosed with. Instead, it lumps us in with the violent offenders and people driven by impulse and trauma, what some experts now call secondary psychopathy, or more accurately, sociopathy. But the real danger of the PCL-R isn't just academic. A high score can keep someone in prison longer. It can ruin their chances at parole, and once labeled a psychopath, it sticks legally, socially, and psychologically. Meanwhile, it reinforces a public myth that all psychopaths are violent, remorseless criminals. That's not just wrong, it's harmful. And for people like me who live with psychopathy but aren't criminals, it's isolating. So, is the PCL-R useful? Yes, in the right context. But should it be the gold standard for understanding psychopathy as a condition? No. It's time for a better framework, one that separates who we are from what we do. Psychopathy is not the same thing as criminality. And if the tools we use can't tell the difference, they're not measuring the disorder. They're measuring our fear of it. That's all I have for you today. I'm Ray Sumner, and I'm a diagnosed psychopath.